Good afternoon, my fellow Dreadheads, and welcome to another edition of Small World Games on YouTube. Today we're going to be looking at painting a gang punk for the Judge Dredd Miniatures Game by Warlord Games. The one I've chosen to go with is this one, not only because he's one of my favourites, if not my favourite, but also the palette of colours I'm going to be using for him are going to be featured pretty much across all of the range of figures in the street gangs, but also in other games. For example, I've used a lot of these in my Necromunda collection. So we're looking at things like leathers and denim and obviously flesh, pretty standard coloured shirts, headbands, things like that. Okay, so I'll try things a little bit differently in this one, trying to keep the time down, as I know you want to get a good quick tutorial. So let's start off for the flesh. These are all Citadel paint. For the flesh, I'm going to be using Bugmans Glow. For the leather tones, I'm going to be using Dryad Bark and Abaddon Black. For the denim, I'm going to be using Dark Reaper as a base coat. For the white areas, such as his t-shirt, I'm going to use some Rakarth Flesh. I'm going to use a slightly sort of off-white, a dirtier off-white. For the hair and some of the areas of what looks like bandage, I'm going to be using some Zandri Dust. I'm going to be using Leadbelcher for the weaponry and metal areas. And for his headband, I'm going to be using Caliban Green. Now, I'm trying to get a bit of green on all my gang members as a sort of uniting colour, as although I'm sure they're going to be playing a lot of gangers from other gangs throughout the course of my games, but my own little gang is going to be called the Green Meanies, and so I'm using that as their gang colour. However, I'm aware that some people might, for example, red will probably be a more common preference for a headband, and I think it's the one they use on the box, so I'm going to be I'd suggest for that maybe a Mephiston red as a base coat, and we'll talk more about that as we go along. Alright then, so without further ado, let's get cracking with some base colours. Base coat, base layers done. I'll leave a list of paints used in the description below, and next up we're on to my personal favourite stage, which is the washes, and this is where it starts to come to life a bit. Not looking like a slightly more professional job. Right, so firstly I'm going to use a bit of Reikland Fleshshade, and I'll be applying this to, surprise surprise, all the areas of flesh. Just using a standard brush here, just to get as much control as I can when using it. Okay, so just a little bit there, delicately on the fingers. And that's the flesh areas shaded. Up next, I'm going to do the hair, and for that I'll be using Seraphim Sepia. I won't be using this on the bandages because, or whatever those lighter areas are. I'll do that with the rest of the clothing. Just again using my smaller brush to make sure I've got the control. Doesn't really matter if you get this on any of the other areas a little bit, as they will be covered up by the next stages, but it is of course best to try and avoid it if you can. Right, so next up I'm going to apply a bit of Nuln oil to the areas of silver. Now this is slightly different. I've given all the other areas a bit of time to dry first, because this one you don't want to spill over or merge with the others, because this might cause a bit of a nuisance to your to the effect on the other areas. So I'm going to make sure I get a decent amount, and this is on all the areas of metal. And there you go, got a decent amount on there now. And as I said, all the areas of metal, and try and keep it off other areas you've already worked on. Handle there before moving on to some of the other areas. Right, so that's done on all the areas of metal, including the belt buckle and the buckles on those straps, as well as the chain and his little shoulder pads there. So up next is the final shade we'll be adding, is some of the ever popular Agrax Earthshade. And this is going pretty much everywhere, the exceptions being the pistol, the flesh, and his hair. I'm going to be going over all the other areas of metal apart from the gun to give it that sort of, well, tarnished look, or even that industrial look in the case of the chain. Let's get a good amount on there. For this I'll also be using a shading brush, as I'm going over much larger areas. The certain areas, such as the area of denim and some of the leather, I under other circumstances, if I was wanting an effect that was a bit more pristine, I would have used the black on them. But because I wanted, a downtrodden member of the criminal element, I'm going to go with Agrax Earthshade. I'm also going to be using it on the black areas as well, that I would normally be doing in Nuln oil or a black wash. Right then, so onto the first layer. I'm going to be applying Cadian Fleshtone over the areas of Bugmans Glow washed with Rakarth Flesh. I'll just go over the base colours again as I go through, a bit of water. A bit more. Just apply this to the areas of flesh. In fact, I'm going to start with the larger areas. Come back to the face with a thinner brush. So just this over the raised areas of skin, getting pretty much as I can on, just missing the recessed areas. Okay, so with skin tones, or the first layer of skin tone applied, Going to move on to the jeans, and for that I'll be using a bit of Thunderhawk Blue. Once again, it's going to be adding a bit of water and applying it into the areas around the areas, but avoiding the recesses. So for example, the line around the pocket I'll be trying to avoid, but getting everything else. Yeah, let's make a little a decent little bit of that on the palette pad, as it is drying quite quick. I'm going to have to give one of those Army Painter wet palettes a try. I know obviously they're quite easy to make your own, but for some reason I do have a bit of a thing about wanting to have the equipment. So yeah, I'll check one of those out soon as. You never know, maybe next video I'll be using it. So I'm just going to try and get this in as many of the raised areas as possible, getting good coverage. So yeah, you see there's a little fold there, so we get a bit on that, avoiding the fold, but over the larger area. That's where it comes to end, so we'll get that covered and onto that raised bit there. Right, and so we're now having done all the areas of denim, now moving on to the t-shirt or crop top, and just trying to get that off white colour. I'm going to give it another going over with Rakarth Flesh. Just trying to keep it as I've already said, just keep it out of the sort of recessed areas where mainly where that wash is gathered. So there we go. You can see it, just avoid that little line there. Go to the top of it. And just around the area with this is going to be the top. Just give it a little bit around there, just to bring that out. Okay, so next up, some of the leather areas. Those are the areas that I've done in Dryad Bark with the Agrax Earthshade wash, and now I'm going to go over them in some very light Gorthor Brown. So this will be the sort of jacket and the straps around his belt and around his legs and the knee pads. I'll try and give this a bit more of a bit less coverage than have some of the others. Blends in a bit more with the base colour, and gives it a good worn effect. There's the back, we can see it a bit better. So these individual little marked off areas here and onto the hood. first layer on the brown leather there, looking nice and patchy and worn down. I've gone over the straps with it as well. Okay, so next up I'm going to do the hair and the bandages. Now, and so with this, I'm going to start off with the hair and try and get as much paint off this brush as I can, and I'm just going to try and skim it over the top, pick up the main areas. And the brush has gone a little bit broken up a little bit there, so I never trust a new brush. Some work absolutely fine, other ones I do find a bit less together. So I'm just going to go over the sort of raised areas of this and try and pick some of them out. Just skim over and get those main areas picked off. Almost like a dry brush. To get the scissors on this, I think, before I continue on to the next colour. The brush, that is. Get that little rogue bristle off. Let's get this done. Move on and do a bit of the bandages. Get to a point as best I can. Pick out a few of these areas. Try and keep a bit of the underneath visible. Again, not getting into the recesses. It's quite a quick job this, it's easy to do a sort of neat job of these. I find these wound up bandages on any models you might be doing. Just pick them out. Similar fashion to how I've done the hair, maybe a couple of coats needed. So with that all done, hopefully it's quite clear to see what a difference that wash has made. We've got the Seraphim Sepia wash on top of the Zandri Dust in comparison with the Agrax Earthshade down here, and sort of what a difference it makes just from a wash. Right, and so now we're going to move on to the headband, and for that I'm going to be using a layer of Warpstone Glow, which I'm going to apply with a artificial layer brush. Now, if I was doing this in red, I'd go with a little bit of Evil Sun Scarlet. Now I know, obviously as I said, I want to have a bit of green on it, and I'm talking about a red bandana. Now, I know as these are sort of retro style punk look that these have, I could have really gone with something like green hair, which I have done on a few of the other models, and a red bandana, which would have looked quite cool. However, as the reason I've gone with this particular one with the blonde hair is because I know some people have mentioned, it's been mentioned on some of the groups and forums and things, how these characters resemble people, and this one had a couple of things been mentioned. That someone had said something about him looking like Billy Idol, or Keith Richards, which, you know, yes, I can see that. But for me, I looked at him and straight away I saw Bill S. Preston Esquire, aka Alex Winter. I think it's sort of the crop top thing and the jeans. But and then I was having a bit of a, during our break at work, we were having a bit of a film, sort of a guilty pleasures kind of thing, and we were watching Death Wish 3. Of course, Alex Winter stars in that as a street punk, and at one point he was armed with a chain. So yeah, that was I knew he was. That's who I'm going to cast for this, for the role of whoever this guy is. I'm going to call him either, I don't know, what do you think? Should I call him Alex or Bill? I don't know, I think we'll go with Bill. And there you go. First layer on the headband. Right then, so getting towards the end of the initial layer, here we have a bit of Skavenblight Dinge that I'll be applying to the Abaddon Black areas, or the black leather areas. Now this will definitely be just an edge highlight, a nice little tip, again using the artificer brush, because I want to get this just in the right areas, do it neat. So I'll just get that on the creases in the glove and around the edges. A little strap there, I'll get some on that. Just get a bit of a highlight on it. I prefer it's either this, the sort of dirty black, or the bluey black. Excuse me. I actually prefer to doing it with a normal grey. I just think it just looks better, looks neater. Grey just stands out too much. Okay, those little knuckles there. Strap and a fold on the back there. Just do this on both the gloves and his boots. Okay, so again with the black leather done, one final stage in the first set of layers. I'm going to apply some Ironbreaker to the areas that were base coated in, well, to the metal areas that were base coated in Leadbelcher. So I'll be on the buckles, just a little bit, just to catch a bit of a glint. So I don't want to catch the dirty metal underneath, so I'll just have a bit at the top. This will be the final highlight, first and final highlight for the metal areas, because I don't want to get it too bright. And just on areas like the chain, just on the absolute most raised areas. And I'll get a bit on the pistol as well. Oh, and the shoulder pads. Okay, so we're on to the absolute edge highlights now. I'm going to start with the flesh, and for that I'm going to be using some Kislev Flesh, a very small amount, and a bit of water on my brush, and we'll apply that to the tips. So I'll go straight for the nose. That's normally a good place to start when it comes to tips. A little bit just above the eye, yeah, just on the brow, and cheeks. build it up a little bit. Just working from a sort of assumed light source, which is maybe up here in relation to. So secondary school art class time. Imagine where the light source is. Okay, and with the flesh highlights done, I'm going to move on to the denim with a little touch of Administratum Grey. It's a bit lighter against it, but it just adds to the effect of the wear. I'm going to add this sparingly, so I'll do a bit to the tips of the pockets there, and maybe to the extreme parts of the folds in the denim itself. Again, more towards a sort of one area where we perceive the light source to be coming from. Does look a bit bright, I know, but in the light as it dries, it'll die down. Alright then, so with that done, I'm on to the little crop top area. And for this, doing a final highlight, well, a highlight of Palid Wych Flesh. So going for the slightly off-white. I've used this on all my gangers for the areas of white clothing, because I'm not sure what kind of access they have to DAS in Mega City 1. But I can't imagine it's vast. Okay, so with that applied sparingly as an edge highlight, up next I'm moving on to the highlights on the jacket itself. So again, as I've already mentioned, this is absolute edge highlighting, working from a light source just ahead and above. And I don't want to use it too much because I've used the previous layer a bit more sparingly. So just literally on the absolute tips on some of the areas. Right, so if I a little bit down here, so we'll start it towards the top of this and just gradually getting less as we get to the bottom, and then we'll remake more towards this end. And this is going to cover all the areas of brown leather, not just the jacket. So we're looking at the straps as well with this. There you go, a bit sort of generous amount on this time. And do similar on the other side. So there's that added to the jacket belt and straps. Yeah, I do like that. I like the way those colours go together. It does add make for sort of a very good, but very simple and quick to achieve worn effect. Right, so I've got a bit of Screaming Skull, and I'm going to add a very, very small highlight to the bandaged area. I'm not going to do it to the hair because I'm happy with how the hair looks. Get as little as I can because I don't want to swamp it with this stuff. Okay, just literally wanted a tiny amount. I don't want to cover up too much of the area that we've done in Ushabti. So there you go, just on the top working down. See, some of the darker colours do give you the area to sort of the natural light shows up on it and sort of gives you an idea where to highlight, but fortunately that's not so much the case as the colours get lighter. At least that's what I find anyway. So there you go, just do it every second bit of bandage and you should be fine. Okay, so just a little bit of Stormvirmin Fur onto the black leather areas. Now this is where I want to add it very, very discreetly, because this will potentially make a mess of what I've already done by looking a bit too bright. Let's get a bit more on the brush and bring it to a tip. Once again, just using small amounts at a time. And this is onto the gloves. Okay, I'll do just keep that along the top. And the boots. Perfect. And there is the light around me, basically telling me where to add these small amounts of highlight. So here we are now, coming to the end. One final highlight. I'll be adding a bit of Moot Green, a very small amount of Moot Green, to his headband. And if I was doing this in red, for example, I would use a bit of Wild Rider Red on top of the Evil Sun Scarlet. This is where I have to be very careful, because this is the absolute edge stuff. There we go. I think I'll just try and add a little bit to that raised area at the bottom. Doing sort of patches going around as it raises up and down. And just a little bit at the back. And there we are. So just a few finishing touches left to add. One final bit of detail will be the stitches or staples in his stomach. I'm going with staples and I'm going to give them a base coat of Warplock Bronze. I know you'd probably expect something of stainless steel for surgical work like this, however I imagine he's had them done crudely down a back street somewhere, and these are actually you know, the heavy duty box staples, and plus it just adds another colour that I haven't already used. And finally just bring the colour up on that with a bit of a Sycorax Bronze. And that should hopefully round this off nicely. And next we'll be moving on to the base. Right then, so the way I do my bases for the urban environment is to use a bit of Uniform Grey from Army Painter's range. Now, I neglected to mention this at the beginning, but Army Painter Uniform Grey spray primer was what I used to prime the model. I wasn't doing it on bare plastic, which I know it did look a bit like. And I also stick the sand down first. And then spray afterwards. It helps it stick down nicely. So with that now in every little nook and cranny, now a quick skim over the top of that with a bit of Administratum Grey, just as a highlight. And finally we'll go around the edge of the base or rim with Eshin Grey. And with the base completed, that's done. And ready to be added to the table with his friends. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Please like, comment and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Small World Games on YouTube. Good night.